Inside, the lights are low. This isn't your typical lounge. This is where the forgotten tales gather, where the shadows have their say. We'll talk of monsters in the woods, of killers with a motive and lights in the sky, and ghosts in the attic. Come into the waiting room, please.
Okay, tonight we have Dr. Yafi Yair, and she's a channeler and author. She's a clinical psychologist. She can channel Hathor, earth spirits, fairies, extra dimensional beings. And she is the owner and founder of Healthy Minds Practice. Welcome to the show, Dr. Yafi.
Hi, Paul. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's so great. When did you learn that you had these abilities to channel?
Well, the ability to channel is an extension of my intuition. So, since I was born, really, I knew that I had some abilities and some interests that were somewhat unusual. But for the majority of my life, I put it aside and lived a relatively normal life and harnessed it more my left brain, analytical skills, got a doctorate in clinical psychology. And then 13 years ago, I had my most recent spiritual awakening, and I became very interested in anything spiritual, anything paranormal. I started reading a lot about different matters. And I started meditating daily. So it really became a part of my first personal path. And eventually it began integrating into my professional path. So I discovered hypnosis, which I found fascinating. First, I was trained in clinical hypnosis. Then I found more spiritual outlets like past life regression and QHHT. And as I developed my intuition, I also started going to the Monroe Institute and eventually started practicing professionally different types of energy healing and doing readings. So spirituality integrated more and more into my life and eventually into my work. And then about 5 years ago, I took a channeling class. It was a very long course. It was several months, and it was during the COVID shutdowns. So I really had the opportunity to completely invest my time and energy into this practice. And like I said, I was already doing psychic reading, so it was not completely foreign to me, but channeling really was taking everything a step further. Even within my belief and my paradigm, if you asked me 10 years ago if I was a channel, if I wanted to be a channel, I would probably say, well, it sounds interesting, but I don't even know if it's real. I wasn't really sold on the whole thing. But as I said, 5 years ago, I took this class and I really made it my path. I took it very seriously. I did all the exercises that we were given, breath work. I'm talking daily breath work and body work and different meditations and the actual practice of the channeling. So I took it very, very seriously in a playful and fun and light way, but very committedly. And I never stopped. So the training was many months long. And when it ended, I just continued. It just became a part of me. And at first, I was channeling for other trainees, in channeling other class members. And then it was to family and friends. And eventually, it was to the public. So it's been kind of a gradual growth and immersion in the world of channeling.
Well, that's incredible. And it seems like you channel an entity named Hathor. And I'm looking, it looks like your book right there to your right. Yes, yes, yes. Uh, Can you tell us who Hathor is?
Yes, so Hathor, we know that Hathor from ancient Egypt. So if we just talk about the name, we know about it as an Egyptian goddess. But as I was, which by the way, I never knew the name, I never heard of before. I was never much into mythology. before I started channeling. So it just didn't mean anything to me. It was just kind of a strange name that, if anything, sounded kind of masculine and warrior like,
No, no, no.
Hathor. So
Yeah. No, 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 no.
that's what I thought when I first got the name. But the people I was with had more knowledge than me, so they had more appropriate questions because I wouldn't know what to ask. Fortunately for me, I was the vehicle at that point. But she explained, she/them, we can get into that, essentially explain that they are the divine feminine, and foremost. That's how they conceive and perceive themselves, the divine feminine. So not just one goddess, not just one being. Although in ancient Egypt, and even now, again, they're walking the earth as physical beings. So again, we can get into that. But there's first a divine feminine, then there's a Sirius star system connection. So it was brought to my attention that they're from Sirius. And it was also brought to my attention that as that goddess, as that divine feminine, they have been given many names by different cultures, different peoples, different times. Different people give them different names, but it's similar or related essence of that divine feminine that is interacting not only through me as a channel, but with humanity and the planet, especially in times of growth and accelerated changes like the one we are at currently.
Are you talking about Sirius B, where the Dogon tribe actually knew about Sirius B, and you can't even see it with the naked eye? You can't see it. They didn't have any kind of means to actually see it, but they knew about it.
That's right. That's right. They say that their physical evolution was on a planet in the Sirius B, specifically star system, and that they were water dwelling. So very different than what we think about.
Yeah, the Yoruba are specifically about the water dwelling, more of their origin. But it's funny that you talk about the feminine and the divine energy, because I know Hathor, like you said, sounds like a masculine name, but Amma, the Dogon's god, is male and female. Mm-hmm. And Oet and Osan, the other goddesses of love and divine energy, the African goddesses, they actually because it's really a Nubian. It's really, even more so than Egyptian, and you got pre-African that dates it. And so you've got feminine energy in the Dogon tribe. Amma is male and female. And the Zulu, it's funny, the way they found their masculine or femininity is the Chitori came down, and they had two caves, a green light and a red light. And if you went through the green light, you became a female. If you went through the red light in the caves, you became a male. This is part of the myth, but they always deal with this duality of, and the Africans feel that the feminine energy is the strongest energy. They start with the mother first. Like even Shaka Zulu, his mother planned all of their missions. People don't know that all his military missions, she planned all of them. And his aunties, when he stepped out of line, his aunties killed him. So, but anyway, what you're talking about, the feminine energy and going back to Egypt and Africa, it's like really, really huge.
Yes, even in ancient Egypt. So like I said, there were many gods and goddesses. There was Isis and Osiris, and there were many of them. But specifically Hathor, first of all, she predated them historically. So when you look at the records, but also even in their mythology, she was the mother to all the other gods. She nursed the other gods. She gave up her milk. That's why we see her as a depiction of a cow or associated with a cow.
Yeah, the cow. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's all about the mother.
They got according to Africans, they at the temple of Hathor, this is how powerful she is. They said that they got the 137 negatives, which in that time, an Egyptian would have woken up every day and said, did I hurt my neighbor? Did I steal from my neighbor? You should be able to answer no to those questions. So they had 137 that they would ask themselves. Moses himself as African, but they got that at the temple of Hathor. But a lot of people don't know that. They don't. Yeah, Hathor played, like you said, feminine music, held guidance, all the things that she was responsible for, and the cow being the symbol of fertility. Her and the cow, came before everybody, like you said.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know if you've been to the Hathor temple, but it's really, really beautiful. It's very awe-inspiring. I know when you hear about Egypt, yeah, when you hear about Egypt, you hear about the pyramids, you hear about different temples, but you don't really hear about the Hathor temple very much. And let me tell you, when I was there, it was one of the locations that left the biggest impact on me. Just the grandeur of everything. There are these huge posts, they're huge, and they go so high, and the art is everywhere. So everything is so masterful. There are carvings and colors all over the walls, all over those columns on the ceiling. You look at the ceiling and it, who knows how many feet up, right? Huge.
Wow.
And it's all covered with art, and still the color is very well preserved, specifically in the Hathor temple. So it's really just awe-inspiring.
And weren't there a lot of people, like thousands of people that were living in there?
I don't know about that.
Oh.
Yeah.
I know
Tell us
people
more about the Hathor
visited.
temple. That's beautiful. It sounds beautiful. Could you tell us more about the inside?
Yeah, like I said, so there are carvings everywhere, and it's language. It's like art and language together. It's all hieroglyphs, and there are different stories depicting different mythologies. And what's unique about the Hathor temple, first of all, it's a whole complex of temples. Then there are, so it's not just one temple.
Okay.
So it's huge, and so there are stories of creation. There are all these mythological stories embedded in the walls and the ceiling. And what's unique is how well the color is preserved. So you have all these beautiful turquoise, it's all just beautiful.
Wow.
And yeah, and when I was walking in the temple, in Egypt in general, when you want to enter anywhere that's restricted, if you want any special treatment, money is a language. You tip, you tip, you tip. Just the way it works there. But I was a part of my group, and me and my husband were like walking around the temple, just looking around, being amazed. And then we got to the end of the temple, and there's a security guard, and we were about to turn around and leave. And all of a sudden, he shows us that there's like a pathway to go downstairs into like a hidden room. So we're again expecting him to say, to block us or ask for money or really block us. That was my way of thinking.
Yeah.
And he just tells us to go in. And there's like no one around. It's almost like we entered a portal, right? Those places are so busy with so many people and tourists. And my husband and I walk downstairs, and we're alone in this enclosure, in this room with all this art on it. And I just look around and I'm just in awe. How is it possible that no one else is here? I'm like, all right, let's do some experiments. I'm like, so just first take it just with my phone. So I told my husband, first take a regular video. So we took a few seconds, maybe a minute of a video. I'm like, now I'm going to call the spirits, take another video. So I do my thing, I call the spirits, and he takes the video, and there are orbs shooting everywhere.
Wow.
And there was nobody else there, just us. And we had the before and after.
Oh, wow. Oh, no.
It was really cool.
And
After that,
Dr. Yafi, also too, if I remember right, wasn't it something like March 2023? They actually uncovered a limestone sphinx at the Temple of Hathor.
Really? I
Oh,
don't
wow.
remember that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I remember
About the temple.
on the news.
Well, that's a good story. I think I heard, but that's cutting edge right there, man.
Oh yeah. Oh, Dr. Yafi. Okay. I don't know. Stacy, Paranormal Soul Brother, still might have some questions about the Temple of Hathor before we move on.
Yeah.
Did you want to say something, Stacy?
Go for it, Stacy. Go for it, Stacy. I got one for it. Go for it. I've been hogging the mic. Go ahead.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine. Well, sorry about the whole Zoom thing. This is a new camera, so I'm trying to figure out what's going on with it, and it just automatically zoomed on me, so I apologize for that. Well, nothing about the temple, because that just sounds beautiful, and I'd love to be able to see that. So you're very lucky that you got to go down there. Did they ever
And I'm
Say
taking a group January, so I'm actually going back there, and I'm bringing my
wow.
own group.
oh,
And we have such an amazing setting, so I insisted that I want to be able to do group meditations. I want to be able to offer my channeling. So we are
that's
actually going to have our own private boat to cruise the Nile. So we're
Oh,
both
wow.
going to do Cairo and the pyramids and the Sphinx and all of that. But in between those two visits, we're going to cruise the Nile on our private boat. So we're going to have like individual rooms for everyone. It's a beautiful boat, and it's just for our group. And we're going to be a very small group, so it's very special. And the trip in general is going to emphasize sacred sound. So, for example,
Oh.
who knew that the Karnak Temple has often night light and sound shows? That I don't know why groups and tours don't really do that. They only take you during the day, usually when it's too hot. But apparently, I found this magical time in January when the temperature is perfect. And my guide is very aware of my spiritual orientation. So we're going to do the trip in a completely different way than most groups, emphasizing sacred sound and sacred land.
wow. So,
Wow.
where exactly are you located right now?
Right now, I'm in Central West Florida. So depending on how well you know Florida, Sarasota area, Tampa area.
Phil,
Sarasota. Yeah.
Phil is from Florida.
Yeah.
Yep, yep. And also, Dr. Yafi, well, the closest I came to Egypt was Morocco.
Mm-hmm.
Morocco. I've never been to Egypt. I want to go to Egypt. I want to see the pyramids, but haven't got there yet. I see that you're really interested in fairies. You channel fairies. So
Yes, one
have-
fairy.
do you have any plans to go to fairyland like Greenland, Iceland? When I was in Ireland, that's a big thing. They were talking about fairies, and a lot of people connect fairies to extraterrestrials. They say that they do similar things. Fairies are known to be short, and extraterrestrials are, well, some of them, like the Greys, are known to be short. They also, too, both of them can cause partial paralysis, and they have things that look like wands. Fairy circles kind of goes with cross circles, goes with saucer nests. They can fly. Fairies can fly. Extraterrestrials can fly. Do you believe that fairies and extraterrestrials are the one and the same?
So there may be some overlap, but no, I don't think they're one of the same. I think we're limiting things by naming them and putting categories. I understand why we do it as humans. We like to put things in neat little categories so we can understand them better. But I think reality may be more nuanced than that. So I think there's an overlap, but I think there are different categories and different beings. So I first met Viola the Fairy when I was at the Monroe Institute doing the program Starlines 1, which is really about exploring the cosmos, which actually kind of support the idea that there is an extraterrestrial element to it. And in one of the experiences, I believe we were maybe exploring Arcturus, but I'm not 100% sure. I had a flash vision of this woman with just saw the face, and her skin was green, but not the way we see it in movies. It looked much more realistic with different shades of green, like we can get reddish. Like it was different than I would expect based on what I've ever seen. And I kind of ignored it. I didn't know what to make of that experience. It was just a flash. And later in a different exercise, different meditation, it happened again, and it was the same face. I'm like, okay, there's something there. And when I came back from the second exercise, the second meditation where Viola flashed her image, I came back with the knowing that her name was Viola and that she was a fairy. And that was very strange for me. As much as I'm psychic and I'm a channel, I'm still somewhat of a skeptic, and I still like think about things in a very scientific way. So it was just very strange for me. I didn't know what to do with it. And I went back home, and maybe 2 months, it took me 2 months of gaining up the courage. because I felt that viola was an aspect of myself. So, and I shared that with my Sunday group, which is where I channel every Sunday. I do it on Zoom. And about 2 months after sharing it with them, and after it happened, I gathered the courage to channel her. I'm like, okay, I'm going to call on her when I do my channeling thing, and I'm going to channel Viola the fairy. And that happened, and that worked. That I actually channeled her. And she was very bubbly and very energetic, and my group loved her. People love when I channel her. She feels very intense to me. Like I said, she speaks fast, and she just has this a lot of energy, intense but bubbly energy, which is very different than Hathor, who tends to be calmer, kind of more expansive and more like nurturing. So very different energies there. And my latest experience with the fairy, so about almost a year ago, I was told that in this year, June, so back then it was a prediction, but now we're talking about the June that passed. They told me that we were inquiring about physical contact. And I'm thinking extraterrestrials, Hathor, and they said that in June, you're going to have a physical contact, a physical sighting. And they let me feel that it's not going to be exactly what I expect. But I didn't really know what to expect anyway. But I guess I was hoping it would be Hathor. Well, this past June, I was in a retreat in upstate New York. And the day after the retreat, at that point, the retreat is finished, but I'm still with the people afterwards. Some of us stayed an extra night. So we're chatting the following day. And I'm sitting there talking to a woman, and we're like this close to each other. She's sitting across from me, maybe 2 feet, probably less, our faces. And all of a sudden, between us, this bright white ball of light with geometrical shapes within it. I consider like wings, almost like dragonfly wings or even butterfly. You have those geometrical shapes. So like that, but it was sharper, and it was about this big, so maybe like a tennis ball, and it just flew between us, like right in front of my face. And usually when there are unusual things, first of all, it's usually not that close and that clear. And second of all, usually I'm the only one seeing it. But this time I could tell that she reacted. She went like this. And I'm like, oh, you saw that? And she's like, what is this? And my first response was a spirit. And then I tuned in. I'm like, it was a fairy. We just saw a fairy. And she's never seen anything. So her mind was completely blown. And she was so grateful because she's never seen anything unusual like this before. And the following day, she shared with me that that thing visited her at night in her bedroom. And it was flying around the bedroom. And at first she thought it was a lightning bug. You know, our minds try to rationalize everything. And then she realized that no lightning bug is this big. And after flying around a little bit, it just took off and disappeared from her room.
Wow.
Yeah. So I have different layers of experiences with fairies, and it seems to be specific as a fairy, although there does seem to be some overlap with galactic connections. So do I think fairies are extraterrestrials and extraterrestrials are fairies? I don't think it's that simple. I think there are probably also many extraterrestrial races and beings and creatures that we cannot even imagine. But fairies is a thing. That's all I can say.
Definitely. Okay, so I have to ask, because behind your head it looks, I know it's supposed to be a butterfly, but it looks like fairy wings on your head.
Oh,
Is
it's
that
funny.
in the wall, or is it?
No, it's a crystal. It's an amethyst. Yeah, it's an amethyst crystal on a stand, and it's a geode, and then they open it, and then it's called butterfly wings. But of course,
Wow.
I'll take fairy wings.
Yes, on your head.
It is on my head.
That is gorgeous. I'm contemplating. I'm just mesmerized by it. It's so beautiful.
Thank you. I love it. The truth is that the camera doesn't even show its true beauty because it just looks dark, and you can see the beautiful purple that it is in real life.
Wow, that is gorgeous. Sorry, I didn't mean to. you kept talking about fairies, and I'm just like staring at your fairy wings behind you.
Cool.
That's kind of cool. But I mean, Paul kind of had what did you call them sprites over at the Skinwalker Ranch?
Sure.
Yeah. Also, too, we actually did an investigation in Monterey, and I'm trying to think of the place that we investigated, but the investigators were taking pictures of these little fairies flying around. I mean, they look like fairies.
Where was that?
Uh, Over in Monterey. Um, Dang it, I'll try to find the name of it. I'm because Paranormal Soul Brother looks like he has some questions. And
No,
while,
no, no, no,
ha,
no.
while he's asking,
I did.
I'll see where that place was at.
What you know, like you said, well, Monterey, Fioli Gardens in Woodside, California, they have little fairy houses, like, and you know, they say they come in there. I've never seen it, but they're really cute. They build a whole little fairy village. Um, but you know, it's more of the European Greco-Roman variety, you know. But they say that the fairies, I mean, whether it's been from again African times or prehistoric times, they were light beings that were responsible for healing, guidance, music mediating too. You know, so I was wondering when you channel the fairy, like she could probably help you if there's a dispute or if you want to hear some new music or you want some kind of healing. They're supposed to be able to do that. I wonder. But before I ask you about that, the Temple of Hathor, the question that was burning me, Dr. Yafi, is that the stories that you saw, the tapestries and the paintings of mythology, do you think seeing any of those stories that predated the Bible or other faiths, did that like do anything to you, or were you able to make any connections that that seem stronger than the spirituality in it than say the more modern books?
Well, I grew up in Israel,
Uh-huh.
so the culture that I grew up with was the Old Testament. So I grew up in a
Okay.
very secular environment, but my
Wow.
context to religion was the Old Testament. So I was used to really ancient stories, and
Okay.
the time seems similar of the two, but there's really no time because, for example, both stories talk about creation. So when was creation? So
I
there's
see what you
not
mean.
really a
Yeah.
timeline. It's more different tales to tell a similar story. Creation usually involves two main beings. There's usually some kind of interaction of the water. So water is usually involved. The sky is usually mentioned. So there are certain themes that appear in all stories of creation. So it's definitely interesting to find
Yeah.
the different
Yeah.
similarities and parallels.
Hey, Dr. Yafi, I found it. Okay, we did a paranormal investigation. Just to let you know, all three of us here are paranormal investigators. But we did an investigation at Moss Beach Distillery off in Monterey, and that's where they have a ghost. It's called the Blue Lady, and she haunts this hill. Um, the Moss Beach Distillery. We didn't find out much evidence over there, but when we were taking pictures outside, they were actually taking pictures of fairies, and those pictures actually went around the world. I mean,
And
they
what
were
would they look like? What did the fairies look like?
they had little tiny wings. Um, they had like a little tiny human shape. Uh, it wasn't an insect. It had to be fairies. I mean, and people were actually seeing them with their eyes. I didn't see any, but they were saying, yeah, these little fairies are zipping around. And it was really, yeah, it was really surprising.
Yeah.
And were they surrounded by a circle? Could you tell? Was there a sphere or was it just the silhouette? What did it look like?
In the photos, it seemed like they had a glow around them.
Yeah, like 'cause they usually have light. Yeah.
Yeah. and some of them
Yeah.
were reddish in color.
Hmm.
And they did look like they had human shape. So yeah, it was really odd. I never seen anything like that in my whole life.
Yeah, and I've tried seeing fairies before. I listen to different paranormal shows and they talk about
Right.
fairies and how to invite fairies, and it's all about being open-minded. And I tried. I put forth a reasonable effort to try to see fairies, and I never seen anything before this past June, which was as I told the story. But before that, I've never been able to see anything. And even the fairy that I saw, she moved so fast, it was really difficult to make out the details. But I have a friend that I shared it with, and apparently she also saw a fairy, and her description was very similar. But her fairy hung around for a little longer. So she could see, like you're describing, the small human figure and everything. She could see more details than I could. She said that she could not, because the fairy actually stopped in front of her. So
Wow.
she couldn't see a face, she couldn't make out a face, but she could see a small human silhouette with the wings, geometrical wings, and the white bubble, exactly like I saw, but you could see more detail. So it's really fascinating.
The wings that we saw on the ferries at Moss Beach Distillery, it looked like dragonfly wings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, I got to tell you something, Dr. Yafi. Um, uh, you have about 4 minutes and then it's going to shut down. We're going to take a 10-minute break and I'm going to send you a second link so we can finish up the interview.
Okay.
Is that
You know,
cool?
Dr. Yafi, I was going to say to you that probably for you and that you're in tune, it's probably a one key location that you probably can have it happen like pretty much as you want. And maybe it's different in other places, but once you visit that spot, and it seemed like you activated that other lady. So I'm sure you probably could activate a new spot now that that energy is with you. Because it's kind of like that with UFOs. A lot of people, they want to do it from one spot. It never happens. Then they go somewhere else and then it opens up everywhere. And you first you thought you could just get it at one spot. Then you're like, well, it should be to happen everywhere, and I was going to tell you in San Francisco, I got a friend that thought they saw some gold fairies inside inside like a white ball. And this was in the daytime. Well, the thing of it is, it was in a spot where they see stuff all the time, and they were just doing their normal sky watch. But right over the bushes, really low, she said it was a like luminous balls with these little gold, looked like figures in them. And she was flipping out like, somebody feel it. She wanted, please, please, it was like, and all she can do is talk about it. But, I know her to be pretty detail orientated, and she doesn't, the stuff that we had seen, I got excited about it, but she, not so much.
Mm-hmm.
But this really, got her.
Yeah, I totally relate. I used to, when I did Skywatch, if I saw an orb, it was such an exciting thing. That used to be the goal, to want to see it. And now it's just another light in the sky.
Yeah.
I don't get excited unless it's Hathor. Because Hathor appears to me as a big golden orb, very
Oh,
specific.
wow.
So unless it's Hathor, yeah, I'm not as excited about the orbs anymore. It's kind of normal at this point.
My fairy right here. She's right here. So, this is my fairy. Her name's Kira. Hi.
Two fairies. They got a good mom.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm all right. How are you? Look how big she is.
Oh my God.
I know. Okay.
Okay.
Anyway, that's my little fairy. So I'm trying to, and we'll see if we can get her set up as one this Halloween.
Well, I used to know Andy when he was a little tight. Look how big.
I still am. Come on, man. Still am, man.
Oh my God.
All right, guys, we got 1 minute and 46 seconds, and then it's down.
I want to see some fairies now.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I
And
know,
then
right?
Dr. Walker,
I
stay
want to go
on.
on the trip with them if I ever
Go
have
back to Monterey to Mount Beach. Yeah.
That would be so cool. I always wanted to go there. I used to do hieroglyphics when I was younger because I thought it would be like the perfect
Wow.
thing. figured out I couldn't draw very well. So, yeah, on that.
This is my fairy right here.
Oh, you can hear me go fly away. He's so cute.
Oh my God.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys soon, okay?
Okay, yeah, 1 minute.
Okay, 1 minute. What did we talk about?
Yeah, one. I know.
We'll get
And
to you. We go
15
further.
seconds. Yep.
I think he already left.
Yes.
All right. I'm going to go
Okay.
see if I can find a ring light so it's not so yellow. I
Yeah.
feel like the Coldplay song.
And Dr.
Okay.
Yapno, I'll be sending you a second link.
Okay.
So,
I'll see you in 10 minutes.
All right. Bye, sweetheart. Thank you.
All right, let's roll.
all right, let's rock and roll. Dr. Yafi, yeah, this is so interesting. When you say extra dimensional beings, are you also too referring to uh, uh, interdimensional beings? So I usually hear people talking about going to different dimensions, and they talk about encountering interdimensional beings, but I've never heard it as extra dimensional beings.
Multidimensional, extra-dimensional, interdimensional. I think we're all saying the same things, and there may be differences. But the idea is, well, we are multidimensional beings, right? Even as humans, we're aware of this dimension because that's where our physical senses are focused, but we really exist in higher dimensions as well, all the way up to source. But generally speaking, when you talk about beings from different dimensions, they're usually coming from higher higher dimensions than we are, which means they vibrate in higher frequency. And often they can reduce their frequency enough so we can communicate with them, but enough so there's some kind of a common ground for communication and for contact. But usually they're not able to go much higher than the dimension they naturally operate on. So there's some flexibility. But for us, they seem as extra dimensional because they can occupy our dimensions, but also other dimensions.
So, do you believe in the multiverse concept?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, okay. So do I.
Yeah, science supports that too. So you don't even have to go too far or get
Yeah.
too wild to believe to accept the multiverse.
Well, when you channel Earth spirits, are you referring to ghosts of deceased people?
No, I don't really do that. Now, they do pop in occasionally when I do readings. I don't think ghosts necessarily, but spirits of past loved ones. So when I do readings, I tap into people's fields and information comes through. And I also use cards to help me hone in on specific details. And often there'll be spirit guides and crossed loved ones who come through with messages, but I don't really channel them. When I channel, I only channel very high frequency guides. I don't really know, it sounds almost judgmental, but I channel Hathor, I've channeled different councils, I've channeled Jesus, Yeshua, that's his preferred name, but never living people. Although I tap into their field, I don't channel them. So there's a little bit of a difference there.
Okay. And you said you channeled Jesus?
Yes. So
Oh.
and that was actually the first essence that came through to me, which was very strange for me because, as I mentioned, I was born in Israel and grew up in Israel. So just like I didn't have, well, with Hathor, I never heard the name before, so I had zero clue. But with Jesus, I've heard the name, but I didn't have a good grasp of who he was or his teachings. I just wasn't exposed to it. And in fact, the first time that essence came through, it was through my channeling teacher, and she used his ascended name, Sananda or Ananda. So I didn't even know. Again, I was channeling Jesus. And then when he came through the second time, it was during a practice session with my husband. And I had him pull a card out of the deck, but not share with me what card he pulled, because it was all a part of practice, right? So I was like, you get a card, but don't tell me what you're getting. And I'm going to channel and you're going to ask questions. My husband is a journalist, so I figured he's a really good person to do this with. Like, you just ask questions. And so the first two times that I channeled Jesus, which was right after the other, just kept on coming up. I didn't even know who I was channeling, but I felt this really illuminated being, and it felt very natural. And I don't really remember what questions my husband asked, but I do remember some of the answers being along the line, oh yes, I'm always with you, I'm always available. So I just thought, I assumed that the card that he pulled was something like a spirit guide, because it just sounded very generic, but very personal to me. But unbeknownst to me at the time, it was Jesus.
And also too, they say that Jesus, that wasn't his real name, and that his real name was, I think they said Jesus.
Yeshua.
Yes. Okay. Yeshua. Okay.
Really, Yeshua, the way it was pronounced. Go ahead.
Yeshua ben Marmon. By the mom, it's the only name in Africa. His mom is only one. So outside they said Miriam, outside of Africa, for what I understand, Yeshua ben Marmon, the son of Mary. I don't know though. Five. You heard me, Paul?
You're kind of fading out.
Okay.
Dr. Yafi, you hear what he said?
Some of it.
Yeah.
No, I just said that they Yeshua ben Marmon, the son of Jesus, the son of Mary. Translated Yeshua ben Marmon. Outside of Africa, they say Miriam. That's how they know where you come from by how you say it, I guess.
But when I channeled him after these two times, in later time when I did it consciously, like I called on him to be channeled, I felt that the most resonant name was Yeshua.
Wow.
That was just my personal energetic impression.
Wow. How did you feel when you heard Sonata?
I didn't know who it was. Yeah, it just felt again like a generic ascended master. And remember, that was like the first thing I channeled. So I didn't even have kind of a context or a point of comparison either. So it just felt like how you would imagine if you channeled some wise teacher. Yeah, I didn't, but again, I didn't have any context for it.
Maitreya, Sonata. I see what you mean.
Mm-hmm.
And you're the owner and founder of Healthy Minds Practice. What is that all about, Dr. Yafi?
So when I was done working for others and it was time for me to do my own thing, I opened Healthy Minds Practice, and I focused on hypnosis. Not only I still did counseling and different services, but I really focused on hypnosis and on spiritual exploration. And it was very important to me not to stick to the main field, psychology field, because it was, especially at the time, now we're beginning to be a little bit more open-minded. But back then, really was pretty close-minded. You're not allowed to do anything spiritual while practicing mainstream psychology. The American Psychological Association forbid it. So I really decided to do my own thing and to embrace the spiritual path. And it took, it was a really difficult decision because I spent all this time and money and such a big portion of my life being trained as a psychologist. And I essentially decided to follow my heart and go in a different direction, not completely different. I've integrated my clinical experience and practice into my spirituality, but it's definitely a different path.
Yeah, it was really hard, but I don't know when you started studying or when you got your doctorate. I just have an MS, so I was just a drug and alcohol counselor there for a while. I never became clinical, but Paul had somebody call me from LA Paranormal, and because I think Paul thought maybe I was able to help him. So it was a gentleman that was on the cusp of dying. He had worked with Jackie Chan. I mean, not Jackie Chan. Sorry, Bruce Lee. He worked with Bruce Lee on for quite a few many years, and his family was trying to get him put away because, well, their whole, and which I didn't understand. Okay, so the whole, Asian, they believe in a whole higher beings and your ancestors and all this other stuff. But his family was trying to get it put away because he was seeing all these people, and he needed a psychologist to be able to talk to him and tell these people that no, he's not going insane. He is actually seeing these people, and they're coming to get him, and they're preparing for his journey to the other side. And I told them, I said, I would love to be able to speak with this gentleman. I said, but unfortunately, I'm not clinical, so everything, anything that I say is not going to be worth anything. But Paul thought of me because I was in the psychology field and in the paranormal field. And I felt for this man so much. It'd be like telling a Native American that, no, you're not seeing all your spirits from the other side to come and, prepare you to go with them. It's just ridiculous to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the main thing of, like you said, people are so closed minded back then. It was even during that, because I met Paul back in 2006, 2007, somewhere around there. And so it had to probably be 2008, 2009 that.
Yes, it was still very closed. Even now, I think we're just at the infancy of it being accepted. I mean, we've made huge progress. And a part of it, like energy psychology, entered the picture. The telepathy tapes, if we talk about really recently, took telepathy and ESP even more into the mainstream. So we are getting better, but institutions are made out of people, and usually out of older and old-fashioned people. So it takes time. White, old-fashioned people. So it takes some time for the laws and rules and ideas to change in institutions and organizations. Often,
I don't think it'll ever change much. We can hope, but I think we're just going to have to kind of our own little field of spiritual paranormal psychology to actual, for psychologists and licensed to be able to do, and help people like that.
Yeah, I think
my question is, because you said you deal with the hypnosis part of it. So what are your thoughts on the people that can't be hypnotized, or what's the ratio? What's the statistics? Because I can't be hypnotized. But I know a lot of people
that can't be hypnotized. Okay, so it's very common for people to think they cannot be hypnotized, or people to have experience where they were not hypnotized, but it doesn't mean that they cannot be hypnotized. Almost everyone can be. And the ones that cannot, really cannot, I'm not talking about not wanting to, but that cannot, we're talking about a tiny sliver of the population, and that includes severe mental illness and mental disability. So almost everyone can be hypnotized. It depends on the person and the situation more than anything else. I only had one
So they just
that
sucked.
yeah, well, no, but it's so common you wouldn't even believe it. It's so common, but it doesn't mean that you cannot be hypnotized. It
Okay.
just means that it wasn't the right person, it wasn't the right time, and also it's possible that your expectations were working against you, and that's also something that the practitioner should be aware of and work with, because oftentimes people expect hypnosis to feel a certain way, or for you to get information to feel or be a certain way, and it's sometimes it's much more subtle than that. Sometimes at the beginning you don't see or get anything, and the hypnotherapist needs to kind of continue supporting you, and then things gradually become clearer. So there are different ways about it, but essentially with the right therapist and the right situation, there's almost no one that cannot be hypnotized. It's just the reality of it. It's just more people think that they cannot be hypnotized.
Well, this was a for no smoking, to stop smoking, and
Mm-hmm.
shit, I tried it a couple of times, but it was a group setting too, so it's a little bit different than like a one-on-one
It
setting.
is different. And that mostly depends on you, right? So, for example, for me, for years, and I'm talking years, and I meditated daily. In group meditations, I wasn't really able to get into it. Now I think I get into it even more deeply because I know how to build on the group energy.
Right.
For many years, I was just so too self um, um, aware, and I couldn't like relax all the way, especially if I'm the one facilitating the group, that I had to have like kind of my facilitator hat on. So for many years, I couldn't really get very deep in any group experiences. So that can be a part of it too. Every person is different.
Well, this was before I knew I was an empath and I was getting everybody else's energy just kind of flowing into me at all times. So, yeah, that could have had a lot to do with it. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and everybody thoughts too. If you're psychic, you're gonna have people thoughts in your head, and that happens to me also. When I lay down to meditate in a group, I'll have these thoughts pop in, and I have to kind of discern that these are not my thoughts because it's not always obvious. Um, but yeah, you'll learn to kind of tell the difference and accept the fact that you are more open and more sensitive than others.
Right.
Yafi, do you tap into the Akashic records?
Yes, when I give people readings, I tap into their energy fields, which is really equivalent to tapping into their Akashic records, and very specific information comes through, and they can interact with it. So they can ask questions, and you can see it as the Akashic records, or just a different way to conceptualize it, but pretty much the same. You can see it as having conversation with their team, right? So their team is providing the information.
So what? So for those that don't know, what is that?
The Akashic record, that Edgar Casey spoke about it. And for people who don't know who Edgar Casey was, he's also known as the sleeping prophet, and he is the best documented psychic because he had close to 15,000 written, documented readings. He did mostly health readings, but also life readings of people that he never met. People would just give him the name and the city, and that's how we would tap into people. And he introduced the term Akasha, which is, I think, from Sanskrit, if I'm not mistaken. And it's about the written record of all that is. And the idea is that everything that ever happened to you as a soul, not only as a person, but also as a person, is accessible in this non-physical record that we call the Akashic record. And when you talk about people's personal Akashic records, it's everything that person ever went through, um, everything, like I said, that happened even in past lives, even talking about soul contracts, relationship with others, This is all somewhere in the ether, in an organized way that we call the Akashic Records. And as an intuitive, I have the ability to tap into people's records and get specific information. And like I said, it's interactive, so they can ask questions and receive answers, and we can work with that.
Yeah, and also too, Stacy. Yeah, the Akashic Records has the past, present, and the future, all in this non-physical library, and every living thing. It records their thoughts, what they talked about, what they experienced, their emotions. Everything is recorded. I mean, even like a little bug, whatever it sees or whatever, all that stuff is in the Akashic records. Oh, and also too, since ancient times, they actually talked about the Akashic records. So, I mean, it goes back.
Well, by the way, also Enoch had something to say about his own Akashic records when he got to those 10 dimensions. But Dr. Yafi, I was going to ask you about your certification. Talk to me a little bit about Doreen Virtue, and also I'd like to ask you about the people that get regressed or after they've gotten abducted by an alien, or they say they have and nobody believes them, but then the psychologist or psychiatrist or whoever works with them hears their story under hypnosis. What can they say to people who don't believe or understand hypnosis, that they aren't making it up, that they're actually touching something that they couldn't access normally? I mean, because a lot of people, when they recant a story of abduction or UFO, people, if they say, was this under hypnosis? Oh, we don't want to hear that. We just want to hear firsthand accounts. But yeah, so those are the two questions I was thinking about. And then I was going to say, Edgar Casey, by the way, he gave a number to everybody. He didn't care how famous you were. If you were sick and you wanted to get a health diagnosis from him, he just said, take a number. Whenever your number came up, for instance, somebody wanted one for hair loss, and he told them to put Pennzoil oil on their hair.
Did we lose him?
Zendane, you're frozen.
But that's a good question. Because really, through hypnosis, especially from a psychologist's point of view, how do you know that what they're seeing or what they're going through hypnosis? Is there something, since you've done, worked a little bit more with the hypnosis nowadays, that you can do to make sure that it's not a false or a false, or it's not being somebody's head?
Yeah, so hypnosis is not as mystical as some would lead you to believe. So really what hypnosis is that you're able to develop a heightened state of focus through relaxation. So we do physical relaxation, mental relaxation. You've probably heard the word induction. And the whole idea is that we get you really relaxed and really focused, but we focus you inward. And because you're relaxed and because you're so focused and because your critical mind can relax a little bit because somebody else is guiding you through that process, you can really tap very deeply into memories and insights. And the idea is that, how do you know somebody is not making it up? There are a lot of telltale signs for hypnotherapists, but as a spiritual practitioner, I can tell you that it's often not reality versus imagination. And I'm generalizing now even to meditations and guided journeys, not only to hypnosis. So imagination uses a similar part of the brain as true connection. And also when you use imagination, it's like priming the pump. So you're actually helping yourself get to that state where you receive information, true information from the higher self. And it's often intertwined. The way the higher self communicates with us is often taking different parts of our psychology and paradigm and things that are accepted to us in order to be able to communicate with us. So you may be doing a past life regression and you're seeing a street. And I'm like, oh, but I think maybe it's a street that I saw in a movie. And then you're like, oh, then it's nothing. I'm just imagining it. That's what we don't want to happen. That's why you want somebody else to guide you through the process and for you to kind of be able to go with it. So you go deeper and deeper and connect more and more vividly and deeply. And the deeper you connect, the less filter you have. But it's still through your human filter, but lesser so. So it's really not imagination or reality. It's often the imagination that opens the gateway to higher realities.
Lacey, are you there?
I think a lot of people are having some connection issues.
Yeah, I think it's the rain. I like to thank you for that. I want to say, do you so on the metaphysical thing on like who you're reaching, I was gonna say at what point, what's the most compelling contact you've had with any spirit or entity where you said, hey, this is beyond the books, this is beyond my training, this is getting all my senses.
I'm not sure I
Hathor?
understand the question.
Oh, I was basically, what's your most compelling experience? Was it Hathor? Your most compelling contact in all your meditation, your channeling?
I don't know. I've had many very interesting experiences. A lot of them have been at the Monroe Institute or through the Monroe Institute, and of course, many of them through the channeling. But when I think about contact, I think about something external of me, although that's not really accurate. From the beginning, when I started channeling and my group kept on asking about physical contact, and they would say, we consider this physical contact. We're communicating with you in a physical way. But when I think about physical contact, I think of something external of me. And then I think of times that I've seen the orbs or a spaceship, which I have, or the ferry that I've talked about. I haven't come face to face that I remember with a physical being, like humanoid shape. Yeah. But I think that's something that's coming and that I am being prepared for, and also humanity in general is being prepared for. So that's something that I see is very exciting. I'm definitely looking forward to that.
And Dr. Yafi, I see that you have a little gray behind you. Not your hair, but you have a little gray alien behind you.
You may be talking about my crystal alien.
Ah, there we go.
Yes, I have a whole collection of them, different crystals. I like them very much.
That's very cool. How many books do you have out?
2 books out, Conversations with the Earth, which is my first book, channeling on humanity, consciousness, and the shift. And this is a wild ride of many, many, many different sources. Some of the ones we mentioned, like the Earth elements and galactic councils and different beings. And my recent book from this year, Conversations with Hathor, channeling the divine feminine. And this focuses on messages from the divine feminine Hathor about their own nature, about their interaction with us, and any other messages they have for humanity at this time.
Are you working on a new book?
I have enough material for several books. I just need to decide which ones I'm going to focus on. It could be Conversations with Viola the Fairy or Conversations with Hathor too. So I'm semi-working on several things.
Oh, wow. That is cool. And it seems like like you said, several books that you can actually create because you have all this material.
Yes, absolutely.
That's fantastic. Now, where can people get your books at?
You can get it on Amazon. The ebook you can get at any bookstore, Barnes & Noble, any bookstore at all. And of course, on my website, yafichanneling.com, you have links there to the books, to many videos, and ways to join my different groups and events.
And how can people contact you?
My website is the best way, yafichanneling.com. Yafi is my first name, Yafi, channeling.com.
Fantastic. Um, if you do a third book, what is it going to be about?
Either Conversations with Hathor 2 or Conversations with Viola the Fairy.
Oh, that sounds good. Well, that sounds like 2 books right there.
Exactly.
um, and fairies and extraterrestrials, you think they're 2 separate type of race of beings, correct?
I think there's an overlap. I just think there are a lot of different types of extraterrestrials. Many different types.
Okay. Why is there so many things that are so common? I mean, so it seems like fairies were taking babies. There are some of the legends say that the fairies were taking babies, and you hear about the greys taking fetuses.
Mm-hmm.
So that's very similar. And
Yeah.
cross circles, the saucer nests, and everything else, that all seems very similar.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very possible that in the past and even in the present, people have experiences with extraterrestrials and they call them fairies or vice versa. So we don't really know. But yeah, there's definitely an overlap there.
And even with missing time, both of the fairies and even who was it that wrote this? Rip Van Winkle. I mean, that story, it talks about fairies and putting them to sleep for 20 years and him waking up. So yeah, I mean, so many connections there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. Stacy, we only got a little bit of time left. You got any questions for Dr. Yafi?
Yeah, I think it is late. It is past my bedtime here. It's 10:20 p.m.
Oh, Grandma. Um, no, actually, I don't. I'm sorry, I missed that last little bit. It's starting to rain here too, so it's getting kind of crazy here. But I just want to say thank you so much. You are amazing. I mean, just everything
Thank you.
about. I hope that we get to talk to you again.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Yafi. And we're going to let you go to bed.
Good.
Over there.
Yep. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe and share as much as possible. Thank you guys, everybody out there, for being with us as well.
And Dr. Yafi, when this is published, I will make sure that you get the link.
Yes, please do.
To get registered with IMDb.
Okay.
Cool.
All right. Thank you. It was such a pleasure meeting you again.
You as well. Take care.
Bye.
Yafi.